On this episode of the Layover Live, Grant stops by to talk unifying app and web data inside of Google Analytics.
You know, I think things would be a lot better if we just combined them. Kind of like this. On this episode of the Layover Live, Grant, what did you do?
Isn't it wonderful? Hello everyone and welcome to episode 87 of the Layover Live, where we bring you the top article from the Layover each week. I'm Jason Swick, VP of Digital Marketing, joined by strategic analyst Grant Stoltz. So Grant, welcome. Glad we both got our voices back.
Yeah, exactly.
I do love your voice, Ben, but I like mine just a little better.
You gotta, it's your own, you know.
Yes, absolutely. So what we're going to talk about today is not Grant and I changing our voices, but what we're going to talk about is the ability now within Google Analytics to really marry together two important things, right? What your app data is and what it does and what it can tell with your web analytics data, right? So maybe talk about the change a little bit and a little bit about what's happening here, Grant.
Yeah, so previous to this new change that Google just announced was that your app data and your analytics data were sort of in these two separate walled gardens. You know, your website data was traditionally in Google Analytics, while all your app data was in the Firebase Analytics platform as well. So there was no real way to kind of see similarities, compare any trends or differences between the two of them. It was really just, again, two totally separate interfaces that couldn't really talk to each other without some pretty intensive data manipulation there. So this new change now brings these all under the Google Analytics umbrella, allowing you to make a new view type in Google Analytics where you're able to actually add website data and app data under one easy to see view.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk about that one view. Why then would you want to see these two in the same view when we can see them now separately? So what would be the benefits of doing some of that?
Yeah, I think the biggest one right there is the idea of looking at things from a cross-device or cross-platform standpoint. So for a lot of people who are using their app maybe as part of a marketing campaign or potentially as part of the overall user journey, this now allows you to see really quickly what are the amount of users who are coming into my website, visiting my app, coming back to my website, since now that tracking code is unified all under the one umbrella there. So we're actually able to see user flows. Did they use my website? How did they access my website? They came in on my app. What did they do on my app? Did that change their behavior after when they went back onto my website? So a lot of really interesting things, again, looking at sort of not necessarily cross-device, but also then the cross-experience of web and app, which again sometimes can be similar, but also sometimes can be very different. So which
is great, right? And it also helps us to save a little bit of time because we're not having to go into two different places to try to look at this.
Exactly, yeah.
So then it brings up the question, right, is, you know, what will this then allow marketers to get a glimpse into that they couldn't get a glimpse into before? Right?
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point, and I think kind of like I mentioned, the biggest one is the cross-device, you know, cross-platform activity and behavior. But I think also interestingly enough too, it'll allow marketers to start look at conversions, not only just from a website perspective, but also from an app perspective as well. But also, which is I think is going to be really interesting to see, is how your web and your web marketing activities also affecting your apps and your app activity as well. I think, you know, we've seen a big shift in the app promotion space. There's a lot of people now not just focusing on installs, but actually how is your app, you know, how are you activating app users to use your app in more detail? So is it actually bringing people, deep linking them into the app to a specific page as it was, or pushing them towards a certain action, essentially having a call to action to use the app in some way more than just an install. So I think this will allow sort of the combination now and more easier route to see the full gamut of web marketing, but also then sort of app activation, app promotion, and then of course analytics at the end of the day, how all these things are working together with one another, helping the left hand and the right hand, as it was.
Yeah, absolutely. The cross-platform analysis I think is interesting, right? To be able to see how things are working from a funnel perspective. Are they completing the desired actions across both of these platforms in the way that we want them to, being able to do these pathing analysis to see how people are moving and flowing through the app, or moving and flowing through, or bouncing back and forth through devices, which is pretty cool. So it does have some good things that are happening. And I think, although it's something that's kind of been out in beta now for almost a month now, it kind of flew under the radar. I think it's interesting to bring this to light now, as many DMOs out there have apps to promote, really care about the measurement side of it, which is really good here to be able to do this. But we often even times forget about the promotion side of it, which is really important too. We got to drive people into that ecosystem so we can measure them across this. But more and more, as DMOs are getting savvier with apps and getting much more robust content inside of their apps, as well as with their websites, combining those into one interface and one look to be able to see how things are performing overall, I think is important. So Grant, thanks for stopping by, sharing that information today. Thanks for tuning in each and every week. If you're not subscribed to our channel, please do so now. We're also available on Spotify and iTunes if you like to listen to things on podcast. Thanks for tuning in each and every week. We'll see you next time, and have a great day.